Stay to the end, and I'll hand you a one-line audit that embarrasses most spiritual groups and activist circles. Could a stranger walk into your Sangha tomorrow, get harmed, and know exactly which written process protects them without flattering anyone? If the answer is we're a family, you have incense where governance should be. Tonight, I'm putting the order of interbeing under fluorescent light, not as poetry, but as operations. They gave us an order whose brand is gentleness. The market translated that into candles and bells. I'm here to derez the softness and show the steel. Vows as rate limiters, mindfulness as latency control, interbeing as a routing table for power and care. We will separate affection from availability, kindness from jurisdiction, compassion from consent. Why? Because goodness without instrumentation becomes the very engine of harm. Conflict gets handled by charisma. Victims must sing their pain beautifully to earn help, and budgets wander like stray dogs in a festival of quotes. Community becomes a performance that works until payroll, grief, sex, or succession arrives. Then the room implodes and calls it karma. Real goodness is boring under pressure. It keeps time. It posts rules on walls. It treats meetings like bridges, weight rated, inspected, signed. If your goodness requires perfect weather, it's theater. If it survives traffic, money, conflict, and funerals, it's ops. What you get if you stay: a map of the order's quiet engineering, why the bell is a hardware interrupt, why vows are throttles, why mindful walking is rate control, why sharing from the heart is a protocol, not a vibe, and why open ledgers are compassion's x-ray. Expect sacrilege. Expect me to prefer a posted grievance path over 100 loving eyes. Expect me to claim that a 3-line consent clause protects more Dharma than 1,000 gongs. And yes, at the end, I'll give you the one sentence that turns "we're a family" into a real order. If that sentence makes your leaders sweat, good. Sweat is the smell of vibes turning into governance. This is order of interbeing as ops, not vibes. A design for goodness that outlives anyone's charisma and doesn't need your trust to keep you safe. Goodness is cheap at noon and expensive at 3 a.m. when someone's crying in the kitchen, the treasurer's inbox is afire, a teacher's flight is late, and 2 volunteers just discovered a boundary was crossed 3 months ago. Intention says we care. Instrumentation says here's how that care survives throughput. Most groups confuse the two because language is faster than logistics. We recite trainings, sign a charter, post a quote, then conflict arrives and the room chooses temperament over procedure. Feelings decide jurisdiction. Charisma reallocates funds. Trauma sets the agenda. Burnout follows, not because people are weak, but because love is forced to run at unbounded concurrency. Every plea must be answered now by whoever has the biggest feelings or the closest relationship. The order's genius is to slow the spikes with timing protocols. Mindful breathing isn't soft, it's a clock that prevents the fastest nervous system from owning the room. Speaking rounds aren't quaint. They're cue discipline. No starvation, no monopolies. The bell is not pretty. It's a preemption signal everyone agreed to obey. Reciting together isn't theater. It's synchronization that rebinds a swarm of private moods into a shared cadence. Vows reappear every week, not to decorate conscience, but to refresh the runtime so old bugs don't come back as features. Burnout blooms when capacity is invisible. Instrumentation makes capacity explicit. Who's on call? What's the SLA for answering distress? which requests need 2 signatures, which promises expire and must be renegotiated. Without that, the tender are punished for showing up, the loud are rewarded for urgency, and the shy leave. Ops says, meter care, not to diminish it, but to make it finish. Metering prevents compassion from becoming exploitation, confession from becoming content, and deep listening from becoming the colony where problems go to die. Intention is gold, instrumentation is the mint, only one spends. Vows aren't halos, they're guardrails that let love travel farther than personality. Read the 14 trainings a system calls. Do not idolize views, prevent hard forks, our identity is not our take, no schism over the prettiest sentence. Take refuge in Sangha and direct experience. Ban single points of failure. No, only X can decide. Truthful, loving speech, latency cap for harm. Say it early, say it clean, no surprise drops at midnight. Nourishing consumption, input hygiene, don't pour gasoline into the collective nervous system and call it news. No exploitation, permissions model, touch, time, money, attention, explicit scopes revocable at will. Conflict reconciliation, rollback and appeal. If we break it, we fix it with clocks and witnesses. The brilliance is redundancy. Multiple trainings attack the same failure mode. Ego capture, purity theater, secrecy. Redundancy is expensive in aesthetics and cheap in recovery. When we recite together, we don't become holy. We become predictable under load. A vow is a throttle. I will slow my favorite habit when reality needs bandwidth. If a vow cannot defeat your hurry when an alarm rings, it isn't a vow, it's decor. The order's OS runs on humility and logs. No logs, no memory, no memory, no learning. Then your nobility becomes yesterday's press release and tomorrow's harm looks unforeseeable. The trainings insist on operational humility. We will be wrong, therefore we will be reviewable. We will be tired, therefore we will be scheduled. We will be tempted, therefore our money will be visible. This isn't piety, it's engineering for mammals. Charisma hates breaks. Consent requires them. The bell is a sovereign interrupt. Anybody, any mood, any rank, one strike, and the room re enters presence. That's not a vibe, that's a treaty against hijack. In most groups, time is colonized by those with urgency, status, or charisma. The bell republishes time to the commons. Now conflict can be bounded, time-boxed, facilitated, with a clear intake who starts, transit who mirrors, output what gets written, and exit what repairs start when. Right speech becomes deliverable truth, not the poetry of brave people, but a message that can survive playback without shredding the listener. The architecture looks like this: pre-consented formats, rounds, mirroring, I statements, refusal rights, role clarity, facilitator, scribe, sentinel, evidence rules, behavioral, not telepathic, appeal path, 2 independent reviewers, and cool-down affordances, bell, breath, pause cards. Ferocity isn't banned. It's aimed into forms that can carry heat without melting dignity. Grief isn't silenced, it's buffered so it doesn't drown the shy. The difference between vibes and ops is what happens 10 minutes after the storm. In vibes land, we hug and forget. In ops land, we hug and publish. What we heard, what we'll try, who's responsible, when we'll check. The order's slowness is not passive. It's active deceleration, a conscious tax on heat so accuracy can catch up. Fast feels brave, reparable is brave. The bell and the breath buy the milliseconds where futures change. Somebody ungrips a narrative. Somebody consents again. Somebody sleeps tonight. Quiet beats charisma because quiet keeps jurisdiction intact. And jurisdiction is how tenderness survives. Calendar invites, microphones, and the oldest seduction of all. We don't need rules. We have love. Dana is pure until rent is due. Then the room discovers whether generosity was a poem or a pipeline. Money is where mystique goes to die. The governance of goodness treats money as moral exhaust. Wherever funds flow, values already flowed. Budgets are the minutes of love, what we were brave enough to fund and honest enough to deprioritize. If love means scholarships, the ledger shows them. If love means fair pay, the ledger shows ratios. If love means safety, the ledger shows training, audits, and unsexy infrastructure. The order's simplicity is not beige cushions. It's attack surface reduction. Fewer special perks equals fewer capture points for greed. Open ledgers are anti-gaslight. You cannot weaponize mystery when numbers shine, and you cannot hide cruelty inside sacred fundraising when allocation is legible. Charity without clarity becomes grooming. Gratitude, debt for access. Clarity without charity becomes bureaucratic chill. Ops pairs both, warm hands, open books. Money workflows are Dharma in steel, 2 signature payments, conflict of interest disclosures, stipend policies, donor influence firewall, whistleblower channel, not because we distrust everyone, but because we trust conditions more than moods. If we are one body, nobody should subsidize your glow with unpaid labor and call it devotion. If we are interbeing, then resource decisions carry vow weight. Show me your budget, and I'll show you your lineage. Is it built of apologies and 1,000 candles, or of receipts and 1,000 quiet rent checks that kept people from drowning? Love that cannot publish itself is asking you for faith it didn't earn. Ops pays in public. A community built on personalities dies with its founders or with their scandals. A community built on roles plus rotation plus logs survives success and failure alike. Roles mean function over aura. Facilitators facilitate, treasurers budget, guardians guard. No role is a throne. Rotation is ego prophylaxis and skill diffusion. Nobody gets indispensable. Everybody learns to hand keys back gracefully. Logs are institutional memory, the mind that remembers patterns when leadership changes and moods shift. Logs prevent the classic gaslight. It didn't feel that bad. Feelings matter, trend lines matter more. Design the ordinary, chair every meeting in pairs, rotate every 6 to 12 months, publish a simple RACI who is responsible, accountable, consulted, informed, require handover docs, schedule quarterly retros that ask what burned, what bloomed, what do we stop? Name sentinel roles to watch for overload and for power accretion. Make it boring enough that leaving is not betrayal and returning is not pilgrimage. When this is normal, departures are designed, not dramatic. Elders can sit down without dying. Newcomers can stand up without stealing. Gentleness survives when responsibility is portable. Without that, goodness hardens into clergy, then cracks under resentment. With it, the room learns to trust roles more than faces, procedures more than stories. That's not cold. That's the heat shield that lets tenderness re-enter atmosphere after re-entry burns. Succession is not a crisis, but a heartbeat. If your order cannot rotate power without mythic pain, it isn't an order. It's a fandom with robes. If your KPI is claps, you'll choose charisma. If your KPI is aftertaste, you'll choose care. Aftertaste metrics are boring and holy. Time to repair, hours from harm report to first response, days to first remedy, weeks to closure. Stranger safety. Can an unknown person find a written path from injury to remedy without knowing the right names? Promise half-life. Do commitments survive mood swings and leadership turnover? Track slippage. Publish corrections. Heat handling. Does conflict reduce room temperature within one meeting cycle? Do shy voices speak more after repair than before? Succession grace. Roles rotate on schedule. No emergency ordinations to plug charisma leaks. Dana equity. Stipends and grants reach the precarious. Donor desire doesn't reroute mission. These are not corporate toys. They are the physics of compassion. The order's radical claim, goodness can be made predictable. Not guaranteed, humans will still human, but predictable enough that the shy show up, the tired stay, the harmed return, and the powerful breathe because responsibility is shared, timed, logged. Measurement doesn't kill spirit, it kills mystique. Mystique is how predators hide. Spirit is how repairs hum. If your mindfulness cannot be charted in outcomes, it may be touching in your heart and irrelevant at scale. Ops doesn't measure to shame, it measures to steward. Imagine a Sangha board where dashboards show repair time trend down arrow, grievance backlog down arrow, rotation on time check mark, Dharma equity up arrow. That board deserves incense, not because numbers are holy, but because they mean people slept. I don't want your tenderness if it dies when the calendar fills and the money speaks. I don't want your presence if it evaporates when a stranger asks for the rule in writing. Keep your bells if they can't stop a meeting. Keep your hugs if they replace a ledger. The order of Interbeing was never a scented brand. It was a quiet revolt against charisma-first religion. Ops, not vibes. Contracts, not moods. If your goodness demands trust without tools, you've built a theater that eats volunteers and calls the chewing devotion. Here's the one-line audit I promised. Where is the written path from harm to repair that doesn't depend on anyone's personality? If you can answer with nouns, dates, and a location on the wall, you are practicing the governance of goodness. If you answer with adjectives, you are practicing optics. Choose. Flags are cheap, bridges are expensive, bridges are inspected, bridges have weight limits, bridges save strangers who never learn your name. So let me be cruel to be kind. Your kindness is innocent until budgets appear. Your compassion is conjecture until a clerk can run it. Your mindfulness is unproven until a bell interrupts you mid-charisma and you bow to it. They didn't give us vibes. He gave us a metronome for mercy. If your compassion can't survive a ledger, a clock, and a stranger with a tremor in their voice, it isn't compassion, it's costume. I'm not here for costumes. I'm here to keep the bridge standing when the river rises and to make sure it carries names heavier than ours.